See, it's gonna show up. All right, it says that I'm live. So let me see. It's gonna catch on over here. Okay, so yeah, it is showing me live on the YouTube now, so we are live. Not sure if everybody getting a notification or not, but I guess they will slowly trickle on in as the show goes on. What's up, everybody? This your man Chris Thorns with your host DJ C Smooth on the line, and we got a show for y'all today that I think is an interesting topic that we need to talk about. And we got a fella by the name of Tong that has joined us, that has reached out to me on Facebook. We're going to talk about false child abuse allegations, which he's a defense expert in this, among other things, which I think this is a serious topic that we all need to talk about, especially when it's dealing with fathers who always get falsely accused or doing harm to their children. You know, and I think this is a good topic that we need to discuss. So, ladies and gentlemen, Tong is on the phone. Tong, how you doing, brother?
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me today, man.
Oh, thanks for reaching out to me, man. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. How you feeling today?
Oh, I'm good as usual.
All right, awesome. So, Mr. Dean, if you don't mind telling people, tell people a little bit about yourself and how long you've been doing this and cases that you had worked. Because from my understanding, what I read up on you, you had been on cases such as Michael Jackson. So can you tell the crowd a little bit about you? They don't know nothing about you.
Yeah, I have been involved in the high conflict world of divorce, child custody, and child abuse allegations in America for 33 years now, dating back to the mid-'80s. Basically, I consult with attorneys and parents that have been accused of physical abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse, parental alienation, Munchausen by proxy, the whole gamut. Also with attorneys, and I testify on the stand as an expert witness in multiple areas of psychology and social science. And yes, I have consulted for the media in high-profile cases from JonBenét Ramsey to Elian Gonzalez, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jackson, through Paula Poundstone and Alec Baldwin, who was involved in a nasty custody battle. And recently, of course, the Me Too movement. I've had many interviews as a result of allegations of sexual impropriety against celebrities in the Me Too movement.
Oh, man. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Brother Smooth, would you like to say something to Brother Dean before we get in, man?
Yes, good afternoon, Brother Dean. Just heard about your credentials with Chris Thorns, and let's say that I'm very, very proud to know that there's somebody out there that's also fighting for men's rights, and that I believe that we're going to have a good show with you today, sir, and just thank you for everything that you do.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And women also, I want to make it clear that I defend women and mothers who've been falsely accused of coaching or alienation of a child in a custody battle. Get a lot of cases like that, too. And, you know, this is a well-meaning, well-intentioned, but somewhat misguided agency, Child Protective Services. In your state of Tennessee, it's called DCS. Right. And, you know, because this is such a volatile subject where the mindset is children don't lie, children are not mistaken about abuse, they must be believed and protected at all costs. And people that never get a knock on their door from a police officer or a child protection worker don't know behind the scenes what's going on. Right. And you have people, you have people in the government with minimal education, minimal training, who are out there taking kids away from families, causing people to go to jail for perhaps things they didn't do. So I become the guy on the other side with the target on my head, who is there for people who have been victims of this, and I go up against governmental officials all the time, child protection workers, police officers, therapists, forensic interviewers. This is what I do.
all right, man. And how long you say you been doing this again, brother?
Over 20 years professionally.
Okay. Well, again, like my brother, his name is Chris. Also, thank you again for your service. We need more people like you because yes, it's a shame that what these people will do to use these kids. A lot of them as a weapon, lying, coaching them or whatnot. So it's good that we have people like you to come in and put a hole through these false narratives that people like to put on these kids. So thank you for your service, and we continue to have your service, and we hope we have some more people to follow behind your footsteps. So thank you so much, man.
Yeah, and you get cases, Chris, that are not so obvious. That actually, if you do your homework, you'll find that again, it's a lack of education, lack of training, lack of understanding by the people in the field that are causing mistakes and errors. So I'm not saying that all these allegations are made in bad faith, that, basically people are calling toll-free hotlines, leading the government on a witch hunt. I'm not saying that at all. Mm-hmm. But I had a case 15 years ago I was consulted on in Florida where I live, and the father was arrested because the child said, "Daddy put his pee-pee on my pee-pee." The little girl was 4 years old.
That post, man. Oh my
God. Yeah. Right. So, of course, the immediate reaction was genital to genital contact. That's not the way it went down. The way it went down was the little girl was watching her father through the bathroom door, urinating on top of her urine in the commode that she forgot to flush.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my God.
Okay, so that's what she meant by pee-pee on the pee-pee. So that was a linguistic error that unless you're educated and trained in developmental psychology, you would not have picked up that mistake.
Right.
And so you have to understand that the people knocking on your door saying they got a report of abuse or neglect against your kid is not a PhD psychologist. That person has minimal education and training in this field.
Right. And so in that case, if I'm hearing you right, so I'm assuming that when the baby came out and said it, somebody took it and ran with it as it was sexual touching, when the whole time, like you said, it was just him peeing on top of pee.
Well, yeah, and right, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly correct. And here recently, we come to learn that Morgan Freeman has been accused of sexual impropriety. And here's a man who's an icon who is revered by people all over the globe. He just did a documentary on God on Nat Geo, and he admitted that he might have made some comments that got twisted. But he never inappropriately touched anybody.
Right. If I might ask, what was your role in some of the Me Too cases? What was your role in there? What had happened where the media had to call you?
Well, I'm just trying. Look, I'm just the face on the other side that basically is saying there's two sides to this coin. That you have to. It may not just be that the person accusing has motive to falsely accuse the other person for money or fame or whatever reason that they're doing it. You got to look behind the scenes to see if that person's been in psychotherapy. You got to look behind the scenes to see if there are what we call sexual triggers involved. And nobody's investigating those situations. We're just taking the word of these women because they're celebrity women, and we're just supposed to believe them.
Right, exactly. I feel the same way. I feel the same way, But I don't want to get it twisted. Say that anybody deserves to get raped or drugged up. If that has happened, then you had the right to speak up. But we just making a false allegation just to be a part of something. That's why I have a problem with. Just to be a part of it.
And people have to understand, Chris, that in this field that I work, you don't have O.J. Simpson forensics here. You're not going to have blood and body fluids and fibers and hair and DNA. You don't have any of that. You're going to have he said, she said, what a child said.
Absolutely.
It's a war of words is what it is. And the law allows these war of words to come into court as what's called an exception to the hearsay rule. That's why these stories are admissible, and people like Harvey Weinstein get arrested, and Bill Cosby gets convicted.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And somebody just said in the chat, you're doing God's work. Hey, I feel the same way too. You was here to do what you are doing now, man. Again, man, thank you so much for your service, and thank you for reaching out to me, and thank you for taking the time to do this show with me, because my audience can tell you one of the things that I do talk about is kids. That's one of my stitches that I do is talk about these kids and these teenagers and the things they go through, versus society, peer pressure, and parenting, and when they going through systems like this. I think it's a shame that they have to experience this stuff so young, when in actuality, in my opinion, if everybody can co-op, everything just be fine. If the mother's doing what they supposed to do, then it should be no problem. If the father's doing what he's supposed to do, then there should be no problem. And most of all, we done lost, for some reason, the anatomy that I think children are better off if both parents are in the home instead of separated. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, yeah, and the people out there, like I say, who've never experienced the phone call or the knock on the door, have to understand that the law is such that the government believes the state is the parent. It's called in loco parentis. So I'm going back to the 1974 Mondale Act, which was known as the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act, and then you can take that up. That was in '74. You can take that to 1994. 20 years in the future, and when Clinton was president, the Violence Against Women Act. And then you can go to 1997, 3 years later, when Clinton's wife Hillary put into force and her husband passed the same, what was called the Adoption and Safe Families Act. So these three federal laws over a period of about 25 years, from the mid-'70s to the late '90s, basically really turned this country upside down as it concerns the family. Mm-hmm. And what's happened now is fatherlessness has increased, motherlessness has increased, and the family has become secondary in this country. That can't happen.
Right. I totally agree with you. You're absolutely right. So, Mr. Dean, if I can ask you, let's say that you are one of these cases and you have found out, or you have showed the burden of proof that everything that's happening in this situation is false. What is your protocol then? Or once you prove what you have proven, is your job done, or do you work to get the person? Do they get prosecuted? Do they get time for that? I mean, is that considered a crime for falsely accusing and coaching kids to do this? I mean, what is the protocol when you prove in your case? How far do you go?
Yeah, so for example, I've testified in your state, Chris, 3 times already as an expert witness in different parts of Tennessee. And as we talked yesterday, I have 2 current cases on my plate in other areas of Tennessee right now. I can't talk about those cases because they're in litigation.
Right,
but
right.
The short of the long is it's not my job to determine if a child or an adult is credible, or whether a man or woman has molested their kid. That's up for the judge or the jury. My job as an expert witness is to help the judge or the jury come to a decision on whether the child is telling the truth, or may be the victim of motive, method, or opportunity by an adult behind the kid, or maybe the kid's words were twisted into something that it didn't mean. That's my job, because the law says in order for the judge or jury to find the child credible, to convict the accused and send him to prison and lifelong sex offender registration, the child has to be spontaneous, reliable, and trustworthy. Mm. So I, as an expert, can give an opinion whether I believe the child is spontaneous and reliable or trustworthy, or is contaminated, tainted, and adulterated.
Okay. Let me ask you this too, because I've seen a lot of cases where a child does come to court, but it seems like their voice never gets heard. The judge would tell them to leave the courtroom, but they make like they're going to bring the kid back in so they can tell their side, but it seemed like it never was happening. So in a situation like this, do they allow the kids to tell their side of what happened? Seriously, do they tell them?
Only in a criminal case, Chris. The accused has a Sixth Amendment right to confrontation, and the child would have to testify in open court to send the accused to prison and lifelong sex offender registration. That would happen in a criminal case where the accused has an absolute right to due process and the right to confront his accuser, which of course is the child.
Mm-hmm.
In a juvenile case that is caused by DCS, as it's called in your state of Tennessee, Department of Children's Services, the child does not testify usually unless there's what's called an in-camera proceeding first, and the judge decides the child can testify. Usually what's allowed is what's called testimonial hearsay, which can be affidavits, which can be other witnesses that speak on behalf of the child.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, I saw somebody was saying that they wanted to call in. I did put the call in number in the description box, so if you want to, refresh your browser, or refresh your YouTube, and you will see the call in information in the description box if you want to call in. Oh, excuse me. If you want to call in and ask questions or whatnot. Now, again, let me explain to you, just like Judge O'Brown, he cannot give legal advice because he's not an attorney. He's a defense expert. Am I correct?
Right. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give legal advice, but I clearly can give expert advice or general practical advice.
Yes. So he can give you expert advice. He is not a lawyer. He can only give you expert advice. And ladies and gentlemen, we have Dean Tong on the line, talk with us about false child accusations, and he does expert in more than just that. So again, thank you so much for doing this show, sir. Let me pull up the board, see if anybody else got on the line yet. Well, they probably haven't yet because I just told them about the number, so we'll just wait and see who else get online. But I believe somebody in the chat room said they wanted to tell you something about what's going on with them, and maybe you can give them some expert advice on their situation or whatnot. So, from my understanding, Mr. Dean, you do this all over the states. There's no state that cannot be touched with your presence, right? You can do this all over the state.
That is correct. That is correct, Chris. I've handled work and cases from all 50 states across America.
Absolutely, man. That's awesome right there, brother. That is really awesome right there. So you say you did 2 cases down here in Tennessee. I'm interested to hear about those. If you don't mind talking about it. Whatever you could talk about, that's fine. If it's anything too personal, of course, I understand you can't talk on the private matters of it. But if you can give us a little insight, for me, as being in Memphis, Tennessee, what cases you did, that'd be great. I'd love to hear that if you can.
Yeah, well, I have testified already twice, in Jackson, Madison County, Tennessee, and once in Clinton, Anderson County, Tennessee. Both cases in Jackson were born out of a high conflict, bitter, acrimonious divorce and custody battle. The second case was more interesting than the first because the second case, the accused was an Iraqi veteran in the military. And, when he hired me through his attorney, he just couldn't believe that he would be facing, the extermination of his child based on allegations of abuse when he's out there protecting our country and our freedom in another land.
Right. Absolutely.
So by the time I flew into Memphis and drove to Jackson to testify, which was December of 2015, a little less than 3 years ago, he had not seen his daughter for 2 years because of sexual abuse allegations that were made against him.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
And, when I testify, Chris, I'm going up against a lot of attorneys. I'm going up against the attorney for the... I'm going up against the attorney for the other town. I'm going up against the attorney for the Department of Children's Services. I'm going up against the guardian ad litem which is a lawyer that the court appoints to represent the best interest of the child.
Right.
So there's a lot of people that try to impeach my credibility on the witness stand, and likewise, not only do I have to hold my credibility and obviously prevail for our attorney and our client, but I have to go up against police officers and child protection workers, forensic interviewers, and therapists. So there's a lot of responsibility on my plate in these cases, and obviously there's a lot hanging in the balance, not the least of which is clearing a guy's good name and putting him back with his family.
Right, man. That does sound like a lot, man. Wow, again, man, hey, salute to you, brother. Like I said, we need more people like you, and please continue to doing what you're doing. Hopefully we got some people listening now. You can encourage them, if they want to get into stuff like this, and they tired of seeing the false accusation, then they would get into that field as well. Brother Smooth, you got anything you want to ask him or say something to him, man, before we go any further?
Yeah, quickly, I just wanted to ask one question because a lot of the stories that we're doing and that we've been doing as of late has been involving parents at war with each other over the children, and then unfortunately they've been ending up in fatalities to the children. And I want to get Dean's opinion on how can this be fixed a little bit, or I shouldn't say fixed a little bit, but what can be done as far as like getting these children to the parents who do care about them, who want to raise them, instead of finding out that, okay, there was the last thing that I think I read from Chris Peloso, and Chris, you know who he is. He sent a story about a story in New York where there was an order and a protective order from the police to go get a child from the child's mother. She closes the door on the policeman and child protective services, and then once they finally got into the house, the child was killed.
Mm.
And the child was killed in the house of the mother or the father?
In the house of the mother, sir.
Okay. Well, look, when the government gets involved, this is a system that is it's Mike Tyson time. It's basically David versus Goliath.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's a system bent on monetary resources, Title 4D and E of the Social Security Act. Unfortunately, there's money to be had at the expense of our kids and families out there. This system is predicated on functioning, and the wheels keep spinning in motion based on money. With that said, you get as much justice as you can afford. Welcome to America. So unless you're arrested and handcuffed for probable cause, where you're entitled to a public defender or my services for free because you have a right to due process as a criminal defendant, or unless the DCS in Tennessee files a petition for dependency and neglect against you, where your parental rights are hanging in the balance, and again, you're informal pauperous, you're poor, you have no money, again, you have the right to free counsel and my services for free, pro bono, paid for by the state. In family court, you don't have those rights. You have to retain counsel. You have to retain my services. You have to retain the services of a psychologist or another expert. And that's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So that's something that has to be changed. Family courts across America, out of Washington, D.C., where Trump is, that law has to be changed to afford due process for people who have no money in today's recession/depression to be able to get competent counsel and competent experts to counter false allegations, and those resources have to be paid for by the state.
Right.
Anything else you want to ask him, Brother Smooth? Because we got somebody on the line real quick. So anything else you want to ask him real quick?
That would be it for right now. Like, go ahead and put somebody else on the line. If I think of anything, then I can probably just interject in whenever needed.
All right, not a problem. We're going to go to Southwest Missouri. What's up?
Chris, this is Real Talk. What are you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing?
I got a couple. I'm doing good. I wanted to ask him a couple questions. I'm glad you did this show, man.
Okay, go ahead.
The question I want to ask is what is the statistic of children that are taken from parents that didn't rightfully need them taken away? Do they get the children back, and what are the statistics of that?
Well, the Department of Justice doesn't really tabulate those statistics in specific, but I would say 2/3 of these cases are unfounded. I think that's a national representative statistic, meaning without foundation. In other words, the government did their investigation. It turned up to be meritless. Not many of their cases are they going to say, maybe 5% turn up to be false, which means in bad faith. So that's more the exception than the rule. But as far as the kids getting, families getting the kids back, there's no statistic on that. You know, in my anecdotal case world, over perhaps 500 to 1,000 cases in the last 20 years since I've been involved, I have a batting average north of 90%. So I'm very successful in my practice, but of course I don't get every case across America. Okay, cool. Another question I want to ask you: did you know? Are you familiar with Nancy Schaefer's work? Of course I am. She knew me very well.
Do you believe the allegations that she wrote in her memoirs that never got published? Do you believe that her allegations were correct with DFS?
As far as what she was accusing the government of doing?
No, she was not accusing the government. She was accusing DSF. You know, Children and Family Services. She was accusing.
That is the government,
that's
ma'am.
The government. Yeah. That's right. So, do you believe in what she was saying?
Well, of course I do. But because she was a high-profile political figure, she became eradicated.
Yeah, they took her seat from her. That's right. Okay. Well, thank you.
Well, they took her life.
Yeah, her and her husband's, and tried to pin it on a double suicide or something like that. Right. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Time, Chris.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for close. Thank you so much. I think
Chris, I do want to give my website for people so they can
go ahead.
Not only check me out, but check out the work that I do and the free links and information that's all over my website. It literally could take you weeks to get through the same. That's abuse-excuse.com. So Alan Dershowitz, who was the behind-the-scenes lawyer at the OJ case, wrote the book, The Abuse Excuse. I have the website, abuse-excuse.com.
Abuse-excuse.com. That what you said?
Right, abuse-excuse, EXCUSE.com. It's been on the internet for greater than 20 years.
Okay. Hopefully everybody got that. Matter of fact, I'm going to check it out myself when I get a chance, or probably when I get off the line with you. You know, because like I said, I read a little bit of that, you know, but I didn't get a chance to get deep into it because I was at work at the time. Because I told you when I talked to you yesterday, I was pretty much heading up to work then. Let's see. I'm looking up your Wikipedia, and like I said, for those of y'all who don't know him, I'm going to read to you who the guy is. He is an American author, public speaker, consultant, and he is a trial expert in the field of false child abuse allegation. He has consulted for the media on high-profile cases such as that of Elian Gonzalez. Did I say that right, or is it Elian?
Right, Elian.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, Elian Gonzalez, JonBenét, like you said, and Michael Jackson. He is the author of 3 books inspired by his personal experience with being falsely accused of child abuse. Oh, I missed that part, man. Oh, you'd have dealt with this. Also, oh, wow.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's how I got started, Chris. I don't even know if you were born at that time, but it was 1985 when I was arrested for allegedly molesting my 3-year-old daughter. And of course, that's what got me started. And I made this my life calling. I took this to a whole different level.
Wow. Wow, man. I'm sorry to hear that, man. You know, and that's, you know what? Like I told you, man, it's foul to hear this, period. But I mean, for some reason, it stings me more when I hear that a man get accused of doing this when knowing damn well it didn't happen. But it's foul, period. What if a mother get falsely accused, or a father get falsely accused?
When I was going through this, Chris, there were no iPods and iPhones and iPads, and there were no computers and Google and internet. There was none of that. Absolutely none of that. I mean, if you wanted to write something, you did it on a little brother word processor back in the mid-'80s. That's all you had. So, we didn't have the law and psychology studies either when I was going through this in the mid-'80s. So with all due respect to people who get accused in today's America in 2018, clearly, you have the technology, you have the means to be able to help yourself and reach out to folks like me who can also help you, and understanding that lawyers don't get this stuff in law school. Attorneys don't get this in law school. Most attorneys, with all due respect, don't have a clue as to what they're doing on these cases. They need help. And, I mean, this is a very specialized area of law and psychology and social science.
Man, God, man. You know what, Dean, when you said that, they remind me of when my sister was younger. She was in elementary school, and I remember when she came home, and I heard her was telling my mom that somebody touched her in an appropriate manner. She may have been in junior high school. I don't remember. But she was saying something about somebody touched her in an inappropriate manner. So, of course, me being a big brother, so I'm upset when I hear this. Which anybody who's involved in their sibling's life would be upset when they hear this. And so my mom was just talking to like, who did what, who touched you, blah, 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 And it's funny that we're talking about this because kind of find out nobody touched her, period. Somebody was saying some inappropriate sexual things to her. And I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah, but I don't know how she got that confused with being raped. I mean, I was relieved when I heard.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, look. I mean, your family member made the right response. I mean, obviously, you're going to protect your niece, your nephew, your kid, your cousin to the death. But understand this: kids are very suggestible. They're very impressionable. They can talk about the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, Peter Pan, or the Easter Bunny. They can talk about how Daddy touched my pee-pee.
Yeah. Exactly. And
real quick.
Go ahead,
Chris, can we get Dean to repeat his website because people are asking for it, and I want to put it out in the chat room for them, so just in case they want to talk to Dean and get advice or whatever they need.
Yeah, if you don't mind, could you repeat that again? He's going to type it in the chat room for me.
I'm sorry.
Your website. They asking for your website again, and I didn't type it in the chat room.
My website. My website is abuse-excuse.com.
abuse-excuse.com. abuse-excuse.com. And I think you got it right there, brother.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we got brother Dean Tong in the building, doing a show with us. We talking about false accusation of child abuse, which is a serious matter. I know I talk about kids all the time and the shit that they go through, and brother Dean, I actually did a video not too long ago where a woman had admitted it, that she was letting men. I feel disgusted even letting this come out of my mouth, but she was. What the hell happened? Hold on, y'all. My phone dropped the call. Ain't there something? The phone dropped the call. Hello? No. So I guess that's not mine.
Welcome to TalkShoe.
Hold on, y'all.
Enter the call ID followed by the pound key. You are now joining the call. You are unmuted.
Mr. Dean?
I'm here.
Okay, I don't know what happened. The phone just dropped. The phone call just dropped. I don't know what the heck that was. So yeah, it was. I can still hear you, but you apparently you must could hear me. So sorry about that. But like I was saying though, I had just, I had just did a video not too long ago of a mother who had admitted to letting men. Hold on, let me merge this call in. Give me just a minute. Hold on, Brother Smooth.
Yeah, I lost you on there for some strange reason.
Hold on. Okay, look like I got y'all both back. I don't know what happened, y'all. I just know I was talking and the phone just hung up. I had no idea what just happened, so I apologize for that. So, yeah, like I was saying, Dean, I had did a video where a mother had admitted to letting men sexually molest her daughters for drug money, which I think is one of the sickest things that any parent could do to any children. They can see them children going through this pain, through this torment, this torture or whatnot. She got arrested. I don't know what's her sentence, if she got a sentence yet. But the reason I'm bringing that up because I want to ask you, is there a such thing as losing your children permanently?
Is there what now?
Is there such thing as losing your children permanently? If you allow people to molest your children and you get in trouble for it?
Well, yeah, that's called failure to protect. It's criminal negligence.
Pretty much.
Okay. And that's one of the reasons why I brought that up when I did that story, and I thought that was just so disgusting that they this woman let that happen. And another thing that gets me, when I do
I mean if I was in the jury and I had a say-so in the disposition of the mother's sentence, I would sentence her to the same amount of time as the perpetrator of the sexual abuse.
Thank you.
Right,
Thank you.
right,
Absolutely.
right.
Thank you. And another thing I want to bring up, I hate when I do these stories. That when I do these stories, the father is never around. They don't never mention the father. It seems like they don't ever look for the father. And, that's another thing that gets me, too. When I hear these sad stories like these disgusting stories, where are the children father? So I don't get it. But we got somebody from New York that has called in, so let's bring them in. New York, what's up?
Hello.
What's going on, Broso?
What's going on, guys?
What's going on, Broso?
Listen, not much, man. Taking a break at work. I saw you were on. I was like, let me check this out. While I'm on break. Mr. Tong, how are you, sir?
Good afternoon.
How are you, sir? How's it going?
He said he just.
All right. Listen. All right. New York has a lot of strict child laws, but for some reason, from my experiences and what I've read up here, it hasn't been really thoroughly enforced. Is there a reason, per se, a lot of these is it maybe because New York is flooded with so many cases of child abuse or just a lot of, neglect going on?
Well, in your state, it's called ACS. There's a different acronym in almost every state. It all means the same thing: Child Protective Services. They're charged by the legislature. To protect children at risk and harm's way and jeopardy. With that said, you have your poor people from Harlem to the mid-city, who perhaps come under the microscope more so than the rich, because of child neglect, or a neighbor calls a toll-free hotline with an abuse call, and of course the government goes out and knocks on the door.
Right.
So at that point, if it becomes a legal matter, it goes to court. Understand this: as a guy who goes up against the government for a living, as I do. They are very competent. They are very competent in what they do in court. The lawyers are very good. The prosecutors are very good. So you can't just and if you don't have the resources, the judge is going to appoint you a public defender or a court-appointed lawyer, and you won't have the choice of who you're getting.
Right.
You're going to get a lawyer who's got about 200 cases on his or her plate. Imagine how much individualized attention you're going to get with that.
Very little to none at that.
Right.
He's got so much on his plate.
Right.
Like,
and if you have a bias, if you have in your state of New York, it's called law guardian. If you have a biased law guardian against the accused because the allegations are so heinous and reprehensible, if your lawyer is a really, really good Tong attorney, then look out, because you're going up against a lawyer for CPS and a law guardian who's out to get you. And good luck on that one, because I can tell you your lawyer is going to plea bargain you and sell you down the stream.
Yeah, throw you down the river, exactly. Although in my case, I just went through a child custody battle, which it's pretty much, it was proven extenuating circumstances that the great-grandmother hold on to my kids because their mother basically abandoned them here in New York, and she moved out of state. You know, the burden of proof was on the great-grandmother to prove that she could still take care of these kids. And with she's had these kids in her care for over 10 years, and she was able to prove that. You know, the burden of proof was on the great-grandmother more so than on the mother. But it seemed like the judge was really trying her best to give these kids back to the mother, even though she is in no way, shape, or form fit to take care of these kids.
Well, the law says the state, the government has to make reasonable efforts toward family reunification. What's reasonable versus unreasonable can be very subjective in a court of law. So the reality is there are 500,000 kids, 500,000 kids in foster care in this country. In 1992, I was called by Associated Press. That's over a quarter of a century ago. And I said to AP, foster care is a breeding ground for child abuse. That quote was published in every paper across Florida. It was a Florida AP editor calling me, a reporter. So make no mistake, foster care is not a good place for your kid. I would rather have the kids in with natural parents. If natural parents can raise their kids, their kids free of abuse and neglect and abandonment.
Yes.
But that's the conundrum, and that's the dilemma we face ourselves in.
Right. Yeah, because like I said, I'm sure there's plenty of cases, not just in New York, but all over the country, that are circumstances where the kids are brought up with the grandmother or great-grandmother outside of the parental family, and outside of the main parents. And with that being said, I'm sure there's a lot of cases that goes on all the time, with grandparents, aunts, uncles, what have you, raising, kids that aren't theirs. And, it's like, the way there's a lot of, from what I've seen on the news, that lately a lot of the mothers have been neglectful in how they're caring for their kids. I'm sure you probably came across a lot of neglectful mothers in your time, not just the fathers, but the mothers, especially in today's age, is more so the mothers doing more neglectful acts. Do you start to see that more as a scary pattern, a trend going on?
Well, that would be accurate, that child neglect is more prevalent than child abuse, and the fact that the mother or the female guardian is more culpable of the same. Although I am seeing a reverse trend on mothers falsely accused of coaching their kids, mothers who allegedly shock their kids to multiple doctors and hospital clinics and get charged with Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Right.
With all that said, 25% or less of all these allegations are unfounded. Are rather, I should say, founded, genuine, bona fide, legitimate child abuse or neglect cases. So roughly 3/4 of all the cases are either unfounded or false. And the statistics are published at my website, abuse-excuse.com. Those are statistics that are basically studied by Dr. David Finkelhor out of the University of New Hampshire, Durham, who is the main editor for the journal on this topic, child maltreatment.
Okay. All right, because I feel like sometimes a lot of these females who do this are, living vicariously through their child. So it's kind of like they're resorting to all these, like you said, coaching and manipulating the child into thinking the father is a bad guy. When really, more often than not, the father's just trying to do the best that he can, but he's not given a fair shake. Do you agree with that or no?
Every case, sir, has to be individually investigated, and therein lies the problem. Not every case is properly vetted. Not every case is properly investigated. Most of these cases are hearsay, lacking real forensic proof and evidence. This is the exception of the hearsay rule. So the mother's word, the kid's word is coming into evidence onto the record. And so the government they don't interview collateral witnesses all the time. Sometimes they cherry pick who they want to interview. And so I'm responsible for critiquing and reviewing everybody's work, including defense counsel's work, applying best practices against what everybody's doing. And oftentimes I have to induce defense counsel to get me policy and procedure manuals, training manuals of the police, Child Protective Services, whatever I need, guidelines, whatever I need, so I can basically say this is what they did, this is what they were supposed to do, but they didn't do that.
Right. But I got one question for you. Do you feel that, because in my case, I was just trying to go for joint custody for my kids with my kid's great-grandmother on my ex-wife's side. Do you feel that is there anything in the book that says that the mother, the father have to be some kind of communication in order for any kind of joint custody to be had, or is it just decided based on the best interest of the children?
Well, the best interest of the children is the law that applies to all 50 states. That's the governing litmus test that all courts have to go by. To my knowledge, joint custody, unless the law changed, was not an option in the state of New York. The only state that had that on the books was California. In my state of Florida, it's called time sharing. And let me tell you, there's nothing shared about it. If a dad loses custody in Florida, you're going to be relegated down to like every other weekend. Mom's going to get the kid 25 days to your 5 days.
Exactly.
So I don't know what you're talking about as far as the joint custody issue goes. I do know that a judge, ultimately rules on witness credibility, including the child. A judge rules on the ultimate issue, whether or not you committed physical or sexual abuse of the mother or the child. A judge rules in the child's best interest. It's not about your best interest or grandma's best interest or mother's best interest. It's about the child.
Right. That's what I figured. Okay, that's what I figured. Because one of the, basically in short, I was told that if I can't communicate with the mother, that there wouldn't be no chance of me having joint custody. Which in fact, some of the mothers are very hard to work with, very selfish. I do apologize.
Well, up in your neck of the woods there in the tri-state area, you might want to check on parenting coordination or parenting coordinators. I find they're very useful in New Jersey, New York, for purposes of high conflict cases where parents cannot co-parent. You get a PhD, parenting coordinator involved versus a law guardian, and you may see the case progress toward what's better for you in the short end than the long end. If you get a law guardian, that's an attorney, and all you're doing there is billable hours. You're just feeding the pot money wise.
Correct. Okay. All right. And one last question, and I got to go back to work. Do you feel, from the results of a lot of cases that you've seen and reviewed, that maybe it could have gone the other way, based on the evidence that was laid there, but for some reason the judge still ruled in favor of the wrong parent, be it the mother or the father? Do you feel
Well,
that? Do you feel
my
that
my feeling there, sir, is in all 50 states in family court, the legal burden of proof is a preponderance of evidence. More evidence than not, 51% versus 49%. It's a very slippery slope. It's a slope where a judge can err on the side of caution on the side of the kid. In other words, the judge is fine with making a mistake on the side of the kid, even if that kid has not been abused as a non-abused child, but is being treated as if the child has been abused. Okay? That's the problem. That has to change. The legal burden of proof has to be augmented to clear and convincing evidence, 75%. So it's not so easy. It's not so easy for a judge to make a mistake on the side of caution.
Right, mistakes are bound to happen. Basically, that's pretty much what it comes down to. I think that's pretty.
Well, I just put a post out on Facebook on that very issue this morning, and a lot of my cases are not malicious motives, but mistakes, errors by professionals. And I get tired of it. I really do. And what gets lost in the shuffle is the family and the children, because professionals are making mistakes. Well, let me tell you, when I'm on a case, I'm going to find your mistakes and I'm going to flush them out in a court of law.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
There you go. That's it. That's what's needed. Someone to oversee it and make sure these mistakes are lessened to very little or none, because a lot of kids are losing. A lot of kids are losing their lives, losing their families, whatever you want to call it. Their kids are losing at the end, no matter how you slice it. From my view, they're losing at the end.
Preach.
Thank you.
Preach.
All right, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Mr. Thorns, we'll talk later.
Hey,
Mr.
Barosso.
Thanks for the call.
Right, man.
Take care.
Thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Barosso, that was a good call, brother. You brought out some questions that probably need to be asked, so that was a good call, brother. You always more than welcome to call in, man. So thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much.
No problem, brother. I got to go back to work, guys. Peace, love, guys. Talk to y'all later.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Tong. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Mr. Tong, I heard you got a little passionate right there at the end, but I felt where you were coming from, man, because I'm tired of it too, brother. So I felt your passion at the end, man. So again, like I said, we need more people like you, and I'm hoping a lot of people is listening to this, that is going through this and can take some of the things that you're saying.
Well, look, Chris, it's a very emotional topic. It's a very sensitive topic.
Yes, it is.
For the most part, Americans consider it a taboo. It's not one they like to talk about. And whenever you hear the word child molestation, you're thinking the accused is absolute pond scum.
Right.
The reality is the accused is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. That's part of your Miranda rights when you're arrested.
Absolutely. And yes, I agree with you, man. This is a sad thing. This is a sad thing, and it's a lot of people that does this, and unfortunately, sometimes I believe a lot of them get away with it. But it sounds like to me,
and let's say just for the sake of argument, Chris, that out of the gate, Harvey Weinstein is innocent, even though he's already been arrested and indicted for sexual crimes in New York, I believe it is. And so Harvey Weinstein has been accused of impropriety against, I don't know, maybe 70, 80 women. But let's say that there's no smoking gun, there's no forensics like there was in Bill Cosby's case to cause a conviction for Harvey Weinstein. Then what do we have? What we have is piling on syndrome. In other words, you're guilty by association with a smoke that's fire.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought it up, because one of my things is this right here, and I don't know if you would agree with me or not if I say this. I think with a lot of cases like his, I think that a lot of them are willing participants, but something along the deal or the contract that they have made didn't go the way they wanted, and they use this thing called, I'm a blackball you, I'm a blackmail you if I don't get what I want. And you got a certain amount of time to do this and do that, or it's going to be on, and if they don't get what they want, then this is what happened. Do you agree or disagree with me when I say that?
Well, of course. And when I was at Michael Jackson's trial in 2005 in Santa Maria, California, I was there at Michael's trial. I wasn't physically in the courtroom. I was outside hanging around with the media. But, so Michael paid an amount of money in 93 when he was accused by Jordan Chandler of molesting that boy. And then fast forward 10 years, and Michael is indicted for molesting multiple adolescent boys at his playground there in California. Mm-hmm. Well, again, guilty by association with the smoke is fire because Jackson had already been accused 10 years earlier. Of course, not everybody's Michael Jackson and rich and famous when you walk into a court of law.
Exactly. And it's a sad case, man, and like I said, to me, from what I see, I think it's more men that go through this than women that go through this, but there is some women that go through it. But if you just look around, it's a lot more men that's sitting up here fighting these cases to get some kind of form.
Well, yeah, I mean, recently we've seen a rash of teachers, female teachers, accused of sexual impropriety against teenage boys. Mm-hmm. I think that happens more often than what we hear about.
Absolutely.
But you don't usually hear of a mother accused of sexual abuse of their child in a custody battle. Usually it's daddy or the stepfather or the boyfriend.
Right. And I just don't get it. I hate it. And it needs to stop. I mean, the whole thing needs to stop. Period. Or either one person. But the thing is, like I said, I'm a man. I see more happen to a man than it does a woman. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of times folks get away with this bull crap. And it needs to stop. And with all due respect to women who are abused in intimate partner relationships, they need to be protected. There needs to be laws that protect women from abuse in domestic relationships. Absolutely.
But there again, a woman can go down and give an ex parte affidavit just based on a statement of fear, threatened bodily harm, and the next thing you know, daddy can't see the woman or the kid. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a no contact order just based on her words. So do we have to take a harder look at the admissibility of hearsay? Do we have to put a crimp on hearsay, and what governs the reliability and trustworthiness of hearsay?
Absolutely, man. Oh, we got somebody for Kansas, so let me unmute Kansas.
Hello?
Kansas, what's going on?
Hello, Chris?
Hey, this you, Corrine?
Yeah, that's me.
Hey, honey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. The reason it's Kansas is because I don't change my cell phone number ever since my grandchildren.
Hold on, stop. It doesn't show y'all number, period. It just show where y'all calling from. It doesn't show y'all number, period. It just show the city that you're calling from or the state that you're calling from. So you fine. I saw you. But go ahead. This is an important topic. You know how I do. I bring y'all the best topics that needs to be heard, and this is one that needs to be heard. And I'm actually glad y'all on the phone to talk about this. So what do you have to say to Mr. Dean, or what question do you have for him? You got the flow.
Yes, I do. My grandchildren were taken by the state of Texas, by Collin County. They terminated my daughter's right.
Oh, wow.
They talked her into signing the papers and promising that they would consider giving the kids
hold on.
to
Give
me.
me just a minute. Brother Smooth, you still with us? Brother Smooth.
Do what?
Now, I was asking was my co-host, well, he's still with us. I don't hear him. Well, say we're still on conference call, so I guess he's still on. Okay, he said he's still okay. Okay, go ahead, Corrine. Sorry about that, dear. I'm just trying to make sure he's still on. Go ahead, dear.
Okay. Collin County, they took my grandchildren. My daughter and son-in-law ended up in the hospital because they gotten bitten by chiggers and got blood poisoning or something from it. So because they were down in Texas and I was in Minnesota, they were down there for vacation. Anyway, they took my grandchildren. when a year came up, they said that they had, there's a lot of confusing things that happened that I don't understand how they got by with doing. They questioned my daughter and son-in-law while they were under the influence of heavy drugs at the hospital. You know, the drugs that they give them, not any street drugs. But then they call me up and they say, we have your grandchildren. I didn't even know who they were. They didn't even identify themselves. This lady calls and says, yes, I'm calling to let you know I have your grandchildren. And I'm like, and who are you? You know? And then she told me she was a worker, and she said, can you come get your grandchildren? I said, in a heartbeat. Well, it changed. They decided not to. They told my daughter she would sign away her rights, that they would consider letting me have them. And instead of doing that, the next day after she had signed and the judge said, okay, let's do this, bang, boom, zing. I called the worker to say, when am I going to get my grandchildren? They said, oh, we only said we'd consider it. Therefore, we considered it, and we don't want you to have them.
That didn't make any sense.
Now, I told them I was Native American, that I'm part Wampanoag, okay? But they said because I'm not registered with the tribe, they do not have to consider it. They said that I was too poor and that I did not have my own house for the kids to live in. And so that's they use, along with hearsay evidence from I have a estranged daughter who's a drug addict, and because I didn't allow her in my house while she was high on heroin, she decided to get even by calling these people when she found out that that her nieces and nephew were in this foster care system. And she made up a bunch of lies about me. They didn't have to prove nothing. They just said, oh, we're going to use this because we don't want you to have these kids.
That's a doggone shame.
I've been trying to figure out how to fight for the kids. As Chris knows, I talk about this all the time to anybody that listens.
Yeah.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, they legally kidnapped my grandchildren. You know.
Well, I mean, all I can say is, with you being in Kansas and the case being in Texas, the government was supposed to offer your daughter what's called an ICPC, which is a form that stands for Interstate Compact for Placement of Custody.
They did do one of those. They did do one of those at the time I was in Minnesota. And but the Minnesota worker, she came out, and everything was going good. She said, I passed. They made me take these tests and stuff. They said I passed everything with flying colors. But in Minnesota, they measured the windows. Of all the stupid things, the windows weren't big enough, they said. I had to find a place that had bigger windows. And then
it sounds like they were nitpicking, and they're supposed to do what's called, in addition to the ICPC, they're supposed to do a social home study investigation to make sure, of course, your home is suitable to upbring kids, raise the kids.
And when they did that, they said that my windows were not big enough, and that I had an attached garage, and that was not okay with them.
So when your daughter lost her rights, were these kids adopted by strangers?
I don't think they've been adopted personally. That's what they told me, that they were adopted out and that I needed to just forget it. The guardian ad litem in the case told me that if I would just shut up.
That wasn't right.
The guardian ad litem said that if I would just shut up about the case, maybe they'd allow me to talk to my grandchildren on the phone.
What?
And I said, you can kiss my butt. I'm going to let the world know what you did to my grandchildren.
They hate publicity. They hate publicity because they live by confidentiality statutes. They can't talk about the case, but of course you have a First Amendment right, and you can, and they hate that.
Right.
They're afraid they're going to get exposed. That's why you lost.
Because I'm not the only one out there with this problem, and I'm not shutting up. Too many people shut up because they're afraid of these people. Well, I'm not afraid of them. The only thing they can do is send me home to Jesus.
Go ahead, girl.
Well, I worked the case. I worked the case just a few years ago with an attorney in your state, in Wichita, who's running for Attorney General. Her name is Sarah Swain. you might want to get a hold of her because she's a very vocal attorney against the government here in Kansas.
Well, that would be great, except now I live in Tennessee. I just don't change my phone number.
Chris,
okay. I live in Tennessee.
I have good lawyers on Facebook who go up against the government in Tennessee all the time.
Oh, really? So they can help me go against Texas?
Well, they would have to come in what's called pro hoc vice because they're not licensed to practice law in Texas. But I have people in Texas too. Remember, I've worked cases from all 50 states.
Right. Is there a phone number that I can get a hold of? Because I don't want to take up Chris's whole show. I'm sure there's other people want to talk to you.
I mean, take your time. I think we got like one more other person on here. Or
okay.
I can do this for you. I can mute you out real quick. Let the other person come in and say what they want to say. Then I can bring you back in if you want to do that.
That sounds good. Then I can grab a pen and paper so I can write things down.
All right. I'll mute you right and stay where you are, dear. Thank you so much. Just stay where you are. I'll mute you out and bring the other person in.
All right.
Wow, Mr. Dean, before I bring them in, that's awful, man. I never heard no mess like that before, but according to what you're saying, though, they will play games like that.
Well, again, Chris, when you get hit by this stuff and your family gets involved with this stuff, it hits you like a Category 5 hurricane, and you have little or no time to prepare. So, look, I've been involved in this stuff for over 3 decades. So obviously, I've done a plethora of research on this topic from across the country. I know exactly what people are facing. I know exactly how the government operates. And of course, I know family court as well.
Man. So,
wow.
Dean, I'm going to say this. I don't have any kids, but when I hear stuff like this, maybe I'm in a good spot that I don't have any because, oh, man, I can only imagine what these people who have talked to you on my line have said to you. I can only imagine even people who's going through a period. I can only imagine how y'all felt when y'all went through this. I never went through this. I never have a child. So I can only imagine how y'all feel. And for what I'm hearing, a lot of this stuff just plain ignorant and disgusting. This is disgusting. And it's plaguing us. And it's plaguing the world.
Yeah.
And this shit needs to stop. Seriously. It needs to stop. I don't bite my tongue. This shit needs to stop because it's getting disgusting. That what happened to that woman right there, that is disgusting what they did to that woman. And I hope she get the help that she needs. I don't condone this on nobody, no man, no mother, or no father. This is fucking ridiculous.
We're the worst enemy.
Exactly. This is ridiculous. And again, Dean, thank for people like you, man. We need more people like you to get to the bottom of this buffoonery, like some people say. Thank you for your service, brother.
Yeah, man.
Golly, man. Let me go to Cleveland. Cleveland, what's up?
Hello?
Yes.
Hey, Brother Chris. Hey, Brother Dane. Smooth on the line, too?
Yeah, who did Brielle?
I'm in here, bro. What's up?
Who did Brielle?
Yeah, this is Brielle. Hey.
All right, go ahead, brother.
I was calling to see if I could get any type of direction. And my little situation is involving my mother as the victim, but I have like videos and audios and the police body cam footage where she kind of admitting that she's going to tell a story on me and get me in trouble. Brother Chris Thorns seen the video. What happened in 2016, me and my mother got into an argument over like $10-20 that she thought that I had because I worked the Republican National Convention. I was cooking for a living at the time. And I was on video chat with my friend, and we was arguing while I was on video chat, and she said that she was going to get me up out of the house. So I started recording what happened. About 30 to 40 minutes later, the police came in my room, and they started asking me questions about, did I hit my mother, anything like that? And I'm like, no, I didn't know that she had went up on the front porch and called the police on me. And I'm telling them, like, no, I have video evidence of what happened, and that she would put a case on me and lied to get me in trouble. The police left that video footage with her and took me to jail. It was in my phone. That video never made it to court. I wound up taking the plea just because I really didn't have no way to defend myself at that time. My lawyer or my attorney, he went over the body camera footage. The police, even the part where we was arguing, is on there. I have that body cam footage now, but I wanted to go back and try to appeal, and I'm not getting any type of say so or any type of help. And even when I find other attorneys, they saying that my attorney that they got, they don't even want to deal with him or touching him or anything with that. The only other thing that I was planning on doing was writing a letter to the Department of Justice and trying to point out what was going on. Also, I have he's a detective in the child abuse and sex crimes unit in Cleveland. That when he was a street cop, my mother tried to have me arrested, and he watched the video of what happened that day. He let me out the car, and he kind of cussed my mother out for getting ready to put me in jail because she was upset at me. But he's willing to testify for me, too. And then I had affidavits of my friends from the neighborhood, which I guess would fall into character evidence, that my mother will falsely accuse me. So I have a detective, I have affidavits from my friend, and I have videos. On one particular video, she said, I'm going to get you up out the house. And I asked her, I said, what are you going to do? Call the police and tell them I hit you? And she said, yes. And I say, it worked every time, but this camera don't lie. None of that made it to court with me. Do you have any type of direction to point me in?
Well, the law has time limits, sir, unfortunately. You already took your plea bargain, so I don't know that you can revisit that case. You'd have to talk to an appellate lawyer. There is an attorney. You're in Cleveland, Ohio, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there's a lawyer who knows me there. His name is Jay Milano, Milano. He's known me for about 20 years. Probably the leading criminal defense attorney in Cleveland. You might want to call him. But beyond that, there should have been a hearing on the legal admissibility on that video and audio that you had, of those tapes you had. All right. There should have been a hearing in front of a judge as to why those tapes shouldn't have come into evidence onto the record to help impeach your mother and help you in your court case.
Well, I had told my lawyer about this before I took the plea deal, and me and him went on his computer to search one of the videos I have uploaded on my Google Plus. So I was in the bullpen looking to bring up the video, and I just couldn't never get in. Kind of find out because my Google Plus is connected to my phone, and the way it's set up, my phone gets the text message from Google that allows somebody to, if I was to log in from your computer, it had to be okay for my cell phone. We could never get in there. And that was just, I guess, technology. And then he had told me to take the plea because we never could get my video. Because another thing was because my phone was left with the victim, which I had recorded. And I argued with the police, like, can you please get my phone so I can submit it in the evidence? And they told me that they did not want to see it. Do you believe that there would have been any fault on the police part? Or even maybe because the way how my Google was set up at the time, that something with that.
I mean, am I going to speculate that the police were guilty of altering and doctoring a video or made your phone exculpatory? Sure, that could happen. It happens all the time. It's not what you know. It's not what you think you know. It's what you can prove in court. So, unfortunately, the competency of your lawyer, I already brought this up earlier with Chris on this show, not all lawyers are educated and trained in these cases in law school. Not all lawyers in your area are Jay Milano. you gotta have your stuff wired tight, man. You gotta be like LeBron James in the courtroom. So, yeah. I mean, so I don't know why your phone didn't come in to help you. I mean, that was your smoking gun.
Yeah, I know. The other thing is this. My mother had when I was a child, a minor. She has had an abuse history against me, and even when I was 18, before any of this domestic violence stuff started happening, she stabbed me in the chest before. I threw bleach in my face, and I put in a police report. I went to the hospital, and there were no charges ever pressed on her. I guess that might be due to them, but the moment that she said something like I pushed her, and it's just a hearsay, it's a hearsay thing that they locked me up when I had a full stab wound in my chest.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been railroaded more than once.
I still get text messages from her where she threatened me about I just got a car, and she threatened to have me put in jail if I don't listen to her. She told me I can't drive my car in jail. So what I did was I filed a police report. I filed a police report for her violating the temporary protection order, and also I have her on audio pretty much admitting to her putting me in jail for domestic violence, all because I had keys to my grandfather's car at the time, and I filed a perjury report on that. But I'm not getting nothing from the system.
I think the moral to the story here is it's a sad reality that there's no love lost between you and your own mother.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Oh man.
I mean, come on, you guys are DNA, you're family.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah. I just been frustrated.
Apparently your mother doesn't think blood is thicker than water.
Just vindictive.
She don't, and I done got threats. I have a daughter on the way. I got threats. I know you want to see your daughter born. Like, these is in text messages that I have in my phone now since the case.
Let me tell you, I'm a professional that works these cases for a living. I've handled cases from all 50 states, and what really disgusts me is when a parent holds a child as ammunition, as a bargaining chip, as a pawn, weapon, or tool over another parent's head as a sword of Damocles.
Yes, sir. And that's another thing that I hate too, because I hear it all the time. When everything is good, it's our child. But when she get mad at you, it's her child. Wait a minute. When it becomes your child, when it's our child, regardless of what the hell goes on. I don't give a damn how mad you get at me. That's still my seed too. What gives you the damn right to say that's your damn child because you upset with me? And it seems like they get away with doing that crap.
Well,
all the time.
My mantra there, Chris, is the best parent is both parents.
Thank you. Exactly.
And
thank you, sir.
Unless a judge rules one parent abusive, neglectful, abandon the kid, or unfit, the best parent is both parents.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that me writing the Department of Justice about this is do anything?
I think you should have gone to the Cleveland Inquirer. I think you should go to the media. And I mean, this is a hot button topic. I mean, you got July 4th. July 4th is coming up here. Independence Day, our Constitution. You're involved in a constitutional issue. Your civil and human rights as a father, as a parent, as a man who's been falsely accused. So, it's a situation the media has to address. They can't just sweep it under the rug.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dan.
Brielle,
yeah,
man, look, man, do what you got to do, bro. Now, good luck to you, because I didn't know things was that bad, man. I know you've been following me for a while, and we talk on and off. I didn't know things was that bad between you and your moms, dude. I'm gonna tell you something too, man. Me and my moms, we didn't have the best relationship, and I damn near almost went through the same thing with her. But I don't think I had it nowhere near as bad as you got it, bro. And it's sickening to read that. Just like Mr. Dean said, that's supposed to be your blood. They're supposed to be the one that they so-called like to throw in your face. I spit you out.
See, Chris, it was like a lot of this stuff came from things like my grandfather, when he was sick, he had a car. Me and my mother both used to drive the car. I used to use the car during the day to go to work, and she would want to use the car during the day so she could go shoplifting at the stores like Penny's and Nordstrom's and stuff like that.
Wow.
So she wanted keys to the car, and she put me in jail so I wouldn't have access to my grandfather's car. My grandfather passed in the end of 2011 in November. My mother was in prison for shoplifting. When she came home, there was a protective order. She wasn't supposed to have came by me, near me, or contacted me, but she came to the house I was living at, which was my grandfather's house. And she told me I killed her daddy, and she put me in jail. And in the month or two, the house was transferred all over to her, which she probably would have got the house anyway by her being his heir. But I went to jail, and the house was transferred over. All right, another time I went to jail, she got power of attorney over my grandfather's bank accounts and things. I had gave my sister my grandfather's credit cards and wallet and checkbook because my mother had been writing bad checks when my grandfather was sick and he couldn't do for himself. She was forging his signature. So I took the checkbook and stuff, gave it to my sister, and she flew back to Texas where she was living at the time. And the next day, I was in jail. She said I pushed her. But I have all these videos and audios and type of stuff to, I was just scared to face the time. I played out of the rest. I was just scared to face the time. I would just, man, I know I've been railroaded and it bothers me, but the only reason why I'm able to move now is because I have a daughter that's going to be here in August or September, and I got to do for her now and provide for her the best way that I know how. So I just been trying my best to get skills and trades that are felony friendly, so I can make a decent amount of money that I don't have to raise my daughter in the hood. Me and my child's mother, we together and everything with us is fine. We don't argue or have any of those type of problems. We work with each other, which I think is unbelievable. But I just,
I think you've been the recipient of past bad legal advice.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, with your daughter on the way, your child on the way, if I were you, I would take that family and go somewhere else and lead a low profile.
There you go.
I agree with that.
Good idea.
I agree too.
Let me say this to you, man. The best advice I give you, brother, and like I said, I can only give you this advice because I don't have any kids, so I can imagine what you're going through. I mean, I can't say what you're going through, because like I said, me and my mom, we did not have the best relationship either. I can sit up here and talk about my mom probably for days, but we didn't have it this bad like you explaining what's going on with you now. So the best advice I give you now, brother, hey, teach your kid better than what happened to you. Treat your child better than what happened to you. Use it as a learning experience, turn it into a positive. Man, and do your thing, brother. Do your thing. I mean...
All right, well...
I don't
know if you got any more. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, man, that's all I can say to you, brother. But if you're done, I'll go to the next caller.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got another call, then, let them, I don't want to take up your time on your show. Man, and I don't know how long you got with Mr. Dan.
Like I said, this one touches subject that need to be talked about, so pretty much y'all can take all the time y'all need, brother. I appreciate you calling in, fam.
All right, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Dan.
You're welcome, man. Good luck.
For your work that you do. We need people like you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes, we do. Keep your head up, real man. Keep your head up.
Like you.
Yeah, keep your head up, bro.
All right, take care, y'all.
Man. You know, you can holler at me, bro.
All right, I'll holler at you, Chris.
All right.
All right, peace. Take care.
Peace.
Mr. Dean, before I go back to this other caller, you know, if I heard you right, you say you do handle cases like that where he went through, right? You can deal Bennett too as well, right?
I'm sorry, Chris, you were cutting out.
Oh, I said before I said what he was saying to you. If I heard you right, you know, you handle cases like that too, right? You could dip yourself in there too, right? If they called you to help out with the situation, right? You can help out with a case like his if he did it within the time limit, right?
Well, I've had cases like his, the Cleveland, Ohio caller, and a lot of my cases, the cops will do what's called a pretext or precept or prearranged controlled phone call. So in other words, let's say your stepdaughter has accused you of sexual abuse when you were in the pool together or whatever, and they take the girl down to the police station. They wire her up and they mic her up, and there's a detective sitting behind her feeding her questions, and you get a phone call, the accused, on your cell phone. And the next thing you know, the girl is saying to you, hey, Chris, why'd you do that to me in the pool? And you say, gee, I'm sorry you're confused. Well, guess what? That I'm sorry is a quasi-confession. And they've already put a ping. They've already put a ping on your cell phone, so they've got a GPS longitude and latitude exactly where you are. So guess what? There are blue lights and sirens coming for you. Look. Because you made what could have been a false confession over the phone.
By him saying I'm sorry, so pretty much to him, that means he admitted it.
Right.
Wow. Mr. Dean, before I go to the previous caller, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because I have a question to ask you. I did a video some time ago. A young lady, I guess they was at a funeral. I guess the part, or what they call their part, where they go to eat. I think it's called a reception. She did a video.
The respite.
Respite. My fault. Respite. She did a video and said, "Hey y'all, I know it's a time and a place to do this, but I just feel like I had to do this." So she walks up to this guy and put the camera on this guy and says, this guy right here molested me when I was a child. You remember you did that to me? You washed out my underwear? You did that to me? You remember you did that to me? Now, he didn't say anything. He didn't say I remember. He didn't say I didn't remember. So my question to you is, if you don't say nothing, period, do they look at that also as an admission of guilt, or they just look at it, well, we need evidence saying that he did that?
Well, even if they take that to believe that you didn't offer yourself to hook up to a polygraph or fight back with your own statement, if they did arrest you for probable cause, they would, you did the right thing because you did not speak without an attorney present. Mm-hmm. Nobody listening to this show, nobody on this show or elsewhere should be talking to any governmental official, which means CPS or a police officer, without counsel present. Emphasis added. Doing so, you can say something that could be twisted or contorted or distorted to make you look guilty later on in court. Absolutely. So that would be foolish to really give a statement. And most good criminal attorneys will tell you, do not speak to the police unless I'm present.
Absolutely. Man, and I think you're right. That's good advice, and I hope everybody who's listening heard that. On stuff like this, unless you got a legal advisor on your team or whatnot, I don't say anything because he's right. I've seen a lot of people say stuff and it get all twisted and turned all over the damn place, and it's sad as hell for anybody. It's sad as hell that you could take a little word and turn a molehill into a mountain, and then you just got a war zone all over the place just from that one little word that you said because you didn't have no legal advice around you. So, yes, he's good advice. Good advice. Let me go back to Kansas, because I think she said she was jotting down some notes. So let's see if she's ready to talk to you again. Corrine, you ready? Corrine.
Hello?
Yeah, you ready? You ready to talk back again?
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
I said, are you ready to talk? Are you ready to talk again?
Yeah, of course I am. I'm always ready to talk. I'm ready to expose it. Sure. You know that.
Go ahead.
Expose child protection for what they really are. They ain't child protection. They don't protect the child's best interest. They have to protect their own interest, which is their wallets.
Amen.
But go ahead. What else you want?
You know, that's what they're about.
Yeah. What else you want to bring to the table to Mr. Dean?
They get their little bonuses for getting children put in these systems. And why is it that most of them are poor, like me, who can't afford an attorney? I've been calling attorneys for 6 years now, and they all want me to give them $5,000. If I had $5,000, you know, I'd have a lot of things. You know, I don't have that kind of money to throw down on an attorney, and those people knew it. I personally think they need to revamp that whole system. Yes, there is a need to protect children, but then they go to people's homes that have actually abused their children. I see drug addicts who are out on drugs, spaced out on drugs, that got their kids at home, they ain't even paying attention to them. And then you got a grandmother like me who loves those kids so much. And they took a big part of my heart away.
I can imagine, dear.
And I want my heart back.
I can imagine, dear. I can imagine.
I'm sorry, Chris. I'm trying not to be emotional on your show, but
no, go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, do what you have to do. Because we already said it. We already said before I even opened up the phone line. Even Mr. Dean said it itself. This is a touchy subject. So for Brielle sounded like he was about to break down, and I don't blame him. So this is a touchy subject. Say what you feel. That's what we got Mr. Dean here for. Maybe he can help you or give you a direction to go to help with your situation. So talk to him. Tell him what you need to say.
Right.
Tell him what you need to say. Go ahead. He's here.
The only thing that,
don't hold back.
They said that my daughter educationally neglected my granddaughter because she was homeschooling her. When they tested her, she was 2 grades ahead of her level. Then they said, well, that's because she was already a genius. I said, even Albert Einstein had to be taught. You know, that's what I told the guardian ad litem. And then they told me they were talking to my one daughter. I said, that daughter got kicked out of my house for trying to deal drugs out of my house.
Wow.
So don't you think there's a bit of sour grapes there?
Wow.
You know, I have zero tolerance for drugs. You know?
Well, I can tell you that the government, CPS, doesn't like parents to homeschool because it takes them away from educational facilities, and those educational facilities include teachers who are mandated reporters. So, in other words, if a kid's coming to school with shorts on, he's got some bruises on his legs, you know, or the kid tells the guidance counselor or school psychologist or principal or teacher, my daddy and mommy are fighting at home. Teachers can call Child Protective Services.
Right. Well, see, here's the other thing that happened. I forgot your name. What is your name, sir?
Dean.
Dean? Okay. I'm sorry about that. Dean, my granddaughter one day got back on her Facebook after, 6 years, just like last year, I think it was. And I got on there because somebody said, your granddaughter's on her Facebook page. I said, no, we go on her Facebook page. So I went on there and I said, who is this? She said, this is Kayla. And she said, hi, Grandma. I said, who? I said, how do I know you're Kayla? So she told me a bunch of things that nobody else would know, And so I knew it was her. And then I said, we talked for like 2 weeks. All of a sudden, she was off again. She took her whole Facebook page down. Before she did, she told my friend's son, they're forcing me to take my Facebook page down. But they're brainwashing her. She thinks her mom and dad did a bunch of evil things to her. I said, Kayla, we never did that. Nobody ever treated you that way. She said, Grandma, you never did nothing to me. She said, and I heard you're still fighting for me. I said, yes, I am, and I won't give up. I will never give up. You are my grandchildren.
There you go.
That's good.
And you know, and she said, Grandma, you're the only reason I came back on Facebook. I wanted to find you. And I love you, Kayla.
The brainwashing, the programming, the manipulation of the children's minds is a very, very common problem in today's America. This is called parental alienation, and it's a form of emotional, mental, psychological child abuse. That's what it is.
Right. Well, thank God they haven't turned her against me, but they turned her against her parents. She won't even call them Mom and Dad. She started telling me that she had another grandma, and I said, do you really feel that way? I said, after everything, Kayla, you're old enough to remember. And she said, no, Grandma, I don't feel that way about you. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that to you. But then she told me that her brother, you know, there's 3 of them that are in custody. Her brother's got his arm broken 3 times. She claims from climbing a tree. That boy climbed plenty of trees when he was home with us and never broke a bone. He is a little daredevil, but I don't believe that he should have broke his arm 3 times. I'm like, something's going on, and I don't like it. You know? And she found that I had made statements about what had happened, you know, and she said, Grandma, what is this all about? I said, I'm not going to shut up until somebody listens and understands that my grandchildren were stolen from me. I said, the only thing that your family's guilty of is loving you. My daughter does smoke pot. I'm not even going to lie. My daughter and her husband smoke pot. But that's the hardest thing they do. And then they were going to make them submit to urine tests and blood tests. That didn't seem fair to me because they were in the hospital under, you know, they had morphine and stuff like that for the pain. It don't seem fair to me to take a drug test when they're in a hospital. You know? They totally conspired against my daughter and son-in-law. And then the worker said the reason she would not allow me to have my grandchildren is because I would not agree to not let my daughter see them. And I said I would have agreed to anything just to have my grandchildren. I didn't say I would not agree to it. You didn't ask me. I would have done anything. Now they need to give me back my grandchildren. Okay? I need to find somebody that will help me. My granddaughter is now 14 years old. Okay? Enough is enough. These people have stolen a lot from my family. You know, that was my first granddaughter. I was there the day she came out of her mother. You know? And I was the 3rd person to hold her because, of course, Mom and Dad held her first. But and she's been Grandma's girl from the day she was born. And my grandson, you know, they're all amazing. Every one of my grandchildren are so amazing. They have not got to meet their cousins that my son had. Yeah, I did. They did not get to meet my son's had children since they were taken. They haven't got to meet their cousins. They haven't got to, you know, there's so much that's happened that they have missed out on. It ain't possible. So,
well, the problem is if the kids have been adopted, then you have no legal rights left. You know, there has to be a legal remedy left for you to pursue. If not, then you got to wait till the kid ages out of the system and turns 18.
Right. I just don't think it's fair. I don't think the adoption was legal. You know, it's just, I think it should be overturned. If it is, you know, it can't be. This whole system is messed up, you know, but I don't know, because she said that she still goes by the last name Johnson. And, you know, if she was adopted, wouldn't she have their last name?
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
I just think they're being foster parents because they're getting money for those kids.
I do know when the government takes you to court, if you don't prove them wrong by the appropriate legal burden of proof in your state, in this case Texas, then pretty much it's game, set, match, and you're toast.
Right. There's got to be a way to beat this. There's got to be a way.
Corrine, I'm gonna tell you like I told Brielle, and Mr. Dean for what he went through before he doing what he doing now. I can only imagine what y'all going through, and just hearing this is heartbreaking. You got people in the chat room saying this is heartbreaking. It is, but I talk about these topics, Corrine, because these topics need to be out there. All right, and
yeah,
and it just. I just don't know what to say to make your situation better.
Well, do you have a website or something so I could maybe find a Texas lawyer and see if he could investigate it at least?
Yeah, my website is abuse-excuse.com.
Abuse-excuse.
EXCUSE.com.
Okay. I would just like somebody to look into it. I'd like to feel like I at least had a chance to fight.
Okay, somebody.
I want to exhaust all chances I can possibly exhaust. I want to be able to look my grandchildren in the eye and say I did everything I could.
Right.
Corey, are you sitting next to somebody that sleep? Sound like somebody asleep.
You what?
Are you sitting next to somebody who sleep? Because somebody is calling the cows for real.
I didn't understand you.
Are you sitting next to somebody who is asleep?
Who is what?
Are you?
Who's asleep? Like somebody's sleeping?
Yeah, is anybody asleep that you sit next to? It sounds like I hear some snoring.
Oh no, the door. I'm driving some of my Amish neighbors, so they're opening and closing the car door.
Oh, okay. Now I'm like, man, they sleeping good. Sleeping good, real talk.
Cutting down trees, as we call it.
I know, right? My grandma.
No, a mutual friend of ours called me and said, "Kareem, you got to call Chris Thorns' show because she knows about the case with my grandchildren,
And I'm glad she
And
did.
so I was like, "Oh man, I got to call.
I'm glad she did. I'm glad she did. Is there anything else?
And I keep the same phone number. I keep this phone number because it's the phone number I had when my grandchildren were taken. And that way, maybe I'll get a phone call one day from them.
Blessings.
But I can't give up. And, I'm not just doing this for me. I intend to do something. I'm still learning, but I'm going to figure out a way to help parents to fight this.
All right, blessings to you. Blessings to you. I ain't got nothing but mad love for you regardless.
God bless you.
Blessings to you.
And I would like to apologize for my bad language today.
No, because I said a couple of things too. I mean, hey, go ahead. I mean, he understands. I'm pretty much sure he understands. He understands.
Mm-hmm.
But
I try not to use bad language, but
well, if you try to stop, you better stay away from around me. Then if you try to stop, you better stay away from around me. Then, because I go in. I go in. But Corinne,
and then some.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, but Corinne, I love you. Keep doing what you're doing, dear.
I love you too.
Do not stop the fight. Keep doing what you do. I just wish magic was real and not just an illusion. And a snap of a finger, everything will be okay. But unfortunately, that's not the way. That's not the way the world works.
Well, I'd like to let your viewers know, because a lot of people think if you get your children taken, you did something to deserve it. They don't understand the process of law. When you go into juvenile court or family court to deal with child protection, you are guilty until proven innocent. You have to prove you are not guilty. It's not you're innocent until proven guilty. It's not due process. They'll they made my daughter sign a paper saying that she was not Native American if she wanted to see her children. She had to give up the fact that she was Native American.
Mm-hmm.
But
Corey,
and they say that.
Do me a favor. I don't mean to cut you off, but I just got two more people on the line. Or you can stay on and continue
I'm sorry.
to listen. No, you're fine, dear. You can stay on and continue to listen. I'm going to mute you later where you can talk to me. I don't know how much time I have left with Mr. Dean, but let me get these phone calls out the way. And, dear, like I said, you know how I do it. This show needs to be talked about. It's a very touchy subject, and it's a very sad subject, but it needs to be brought to the light. And that's what I'm doing. I don't care who gets mad at it. You get mad at it, oh well, F your feelings. All right? So
Well, I love you. I promote you as much as I can to people. And Dean, you are doing a great job. Please keep doing what you're doing. But I am going to get hold of your website. I might try to email you or something through your website.
Sure. Thank you.
Because
Best of luck
I would
to
like
you
to
now.
talk to you and figure out a way to. We got to get this system revamped.
absolutely.
So maybe you could help me figure out some things.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, good
All
luck.
right.
Because I'd be more than
Yeah.
happy to do work, drudge work or whatever I got to do to help you with your cause.
All right. Well, good luck to you.
Okay.
Dean.
Okay.
Good luck
I can't
to you.
do lawyer work, but I can look things up for you or whatever.
Right.
That's just as
Anything to
good
make
right
your
there.
burden less, I will be glad to do for you.
All right, dear.
Well, thank you. You take care now.
You take care.
Thank
good luck
you.
to you.
And God
Kareem.
bless. I will be praying for you, Dean.
Thank you.
All right. All right.
All right.
Wow. You know what they say, we complain about stuff that happened to us, and then people like to say, well, it could be worse if somebody got it worse to you, even though that's a true logic statement. But if you really think about it, though, what help are you doing by saying that to me? You don't want nobody to be in a worse situation, especially with dealing with stuff like this. You don't want them to be in a worse situation, period. So what good is you helping anybody to tell them that they're going through this and say, well, somebody got it worse than you? Shut up. Shut up. That's not helping.
I have something to say to that. Because in this case here, you're absolutely right, Chris. But there is a reason why people do say that, because a lot of times, though, even though people say that thing, they might be covering up something that they're going through that might be worse than the other person. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
However, I am going to say, yes, a lot of times, though, we shouldn't say that, because you know what? Guess what, though? That person is going through something. You may not be going through something, but they need your encouragement more than just saying somebody has it worse than you do. I mean, it's true, but in certain instances, it's not.
Absolutely. Let me go over here. We got Minnesota on the line. Minnesota, what's up?
Hello, my name is Melissa.
Hey, was you in the chat room, right?
Hi, Melissa. How are you?
Yeah, I was in the chat room.
All
yeah.
right. How you doing, dear?
I'm good. I guess I'm very frustrated about several of the situations that is going on in our country at the moment. But
speak on it.
I'm good.
Yeah, speak on it.
The sex trafficking stuff that's in Arizona. That's one thing that's really, really bothering me. I mean, kids don't deserve to be treated like sex slaves. I mean, really, that's not what God gave us the kids for, in my opinion. But then you got Las Vegas, the Las Vegas shooting. They're covering that up left and right, all over the place. And I just noticed about the child protection of youth, and I am a child protection product. I was in child protection from the age of 6 months old till I was 18, and then I had my son, and they took him away. They said they took him away because they said that he was not gaining enough weight. And for me, they didn't give me a chance to raise my kid. Basically, my kid is living with one of my mom's cousins. She's raised him. Next Monday, he will be 15 years old, and I haven't seen him but maybe twice.
Wow.
His entire life.
Ooh,
Jesus.
So it, and my husband, he's going through child protection issues right now because his ex-wife actually was living with a man who was beating his kids, and child protection, came in and took him, and they want. So I don't even know how to put it, but I'm going to put it this way.
Take your time.
Child protection seems to think that.
So you like you feel?
Yeah, take your time.
You can go ahead and jump through hoops, and then we might give you your kid. or we might give you your kids, or we might whatever. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't work that way.
Wow.
We're not supposed to be using the kids as a pawn.
Yes.
Right.
Whether it's in a relationship, whether it's baby mama or baby daddy, whatever. And I guess I just find it irritating, and I get really angry about the kids because they didn't ask to be brought here. You know, they didn't ask for mom and dad to have sex, and now I'm here.
And not only they didn't ask to be here, they didn't ask to have none of this crap that goes on with them, just like Brother Dean talks about. A lot of this stuff they going on, being coached to lie, being set into the sex traffic trade, having parents sit up there and letting guys and women molest them. They didn't ask for none of this shit. They didn't.
Right, exactly. And, you know, for me, they're not my kids per se, but they are my kids now that I'm with him and whatnot. But, you know, I just have to sit back and just be supportive of my husband in whatever he decides he's going to do and how he's going to do it. And that's all I can do. I mean, they won't let me have my children or won't let me have my child. And I've always, I cry about it because I'm like, I never was given that full opportunity to prove to the county or to child protection that I'm able to do something, that I'm able to take care of my kids. And, you know, once they took my kid away, I dove deep into the drug and alcohol scene. And 6 years ago, back in 2011, I decided for myself that I was going to put myself in treatment and I was going to go ahead and become a sober person.
Good girl.
And I have been sober. I was sober for 5 years and I slipped.
All right, there you
and
go.
Whatever.
There you
and
go.
I am working on 2 years of sobriety.
Amen.
At this point.
Amen.
You know, so.
Wow.
You know, all I can say is I pray for the people out there that are going through this hurtful situation. And, you know, God is always good. He will always, you know, what we need. Even when we think to ourselves, oh, my God, I don't know how I'm going to, you know, do this or do that. I've watched God work miracles. Mm-hmm. So... you know, I just know that God is good, and regardless of the fact that, you know, I don't have my kid with me today, that doesn't mean that at some point he won't want to find me and know what exactly happened.
Again, with you and everybody else, you know, I can only imagine what y'all going through, man. This is sad, you know, this is heartbreaking. And all I could do, all I could do is just wish y'all the best and keep doing the proper necessary steps you need to take, and keep a good fight to do what you need to do to get your kids or whatnot. But Mr. Dean, you have a response to her for what she said?
Well, I had a case like hers, Chris, a few years ago with her son not gaining weight. That's called Failure to Thrive.
Mm-hmm.
The government probably had multiple medical experts involved in the case when the child was a baby. And you can only fight fire with fire. So you've got to have your own medical experts with each of their experts.
Yes.
Right.
And I don't know that she had the right attorney or the right experts to counter what their experts were saying.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but no, I didn't. You know, the same prosecutor that was in all of my child protection cases, she jumped on board to take my kid away, and I made a request that she recuse herself because she knew too much about me, and she was in all my other cases regarding child protection, and she never did. And they basically told me I had to go to anger management and this, that, and the other thing. And when I did all of that, it still wasn't good enough. So, they gave me my son back for a month, and then they came back and took him away from me.
Oh, wow.
And they basically told the court that I threw the kid at them, and that I wouldn't give them any clothes for him to wear. And I said, listen, I paid my money for those clothes. You want them, you have to put clothes on them. They didn't like that. I'm not going to... You want him so badly to be away from me. You think I'm such a bad person, such a bad parent. You know what? You wanted him. You guys get to go out and buy him clothes and diapers and feed him and make sure that he is a healthy baby. I lived at home with my mother. I didn't have to hang on every word that the doctor said. But please believe me, that was another reason why they were picking with me, is because I didn't hang on the doctor's every word. I had a mother who was actually at home who could explain to me what I needed to do. Simple.
Wow. I don't know what else to say. Listen, do me a favor. I got another call on the line. If you want to stay here and listen, I could bring you back in later on and let you vent out some more.
Okay.
Sound like you got a lot that you want to vent, and this is a platform that I want to let you do it. But let me get this call and
all right,
and get Brother Dean out of here. But you keep your head up there, and God bless you. But before you go, Brother Smooth, you got anything you want to say to it, brother?
Is your name Melissa?
Yeah, that's your name, Melissa?
Yeah, my name is Melissa.
Oh, okay. All right. Just want to make, but just listening to your story, it kind of makes us all feel sad, because there's so many people who are going through all these things with their children, the CPS or DIFUS, whatever you want to call it, DCF, or child services, whatever you want to call it. And the problem with all this here is that all it takes is one person saying something bad is happening to a child, and then all of a sudden there's a can of worms that's open. And the problem with that too is that they just take their word without going and getting facts. Then you have to bring in attorneys. Then you have to bring in police. Then you have to go to a hospital. Then you got to fight it out in court. And every man is just like our brother Dean said. There is nobody out there that's like LeBron James, who has all the money in the world to pretty much beat any case. It's just that simple. But at the same time, though, it's like we already know that the truth always comes out one way or another. What's done in the dark always comes to the light. So you keep fighting.
That's right.
Amen. Right. Thank you.
All right, Melissa, I'll bring you back in later, dude. Just stay on. Oh, we got another call.
All right.
Okay, we got another call. Let's go to Oregon. Oregon, what's up?
How you doing, Chris?
This you, Junk Pal?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, welcome back, brother. Man, we ain't
What's up, Jump Pal?
We haven't done no show in a while, brother. Where you been?
I've just been doing a lot of, things that I've been putting off, just trying to catch up and
okay. Do
what I got to do.
Well, I'm going to take it for what it's worth today, brother. Every time you come on the show, people love your insight, man. So, hey, you do a good deed every time you come on, brother. But go ahead. What you got for us?
Yeah, I really don't know you, Dean. I think I've seen your face around and stuff like that, so I'll read up on you a little bit. But I know that there's a lot of kids being taken away under false accusations, and I really hate when people do stuff like that, make a call that's not necessary. And in my mind, it's criminal, to me. But I have called CPS only once in my life for a reason that disturbed me, for a video that I had watched on a particular person who pulled out a gun, who at the time had a 16-year-old daughter. And basically, she pulled out a gun and said that a particular person keeps messing with her and his fans keep messing with me, and I'm contemplating on killing myself. She pulled out a 9mm on the video. And I had to immediately make a call to CPS because I didn't want to call the police and have this be escalated to a point where somebody could get hurt. Now, I told them everything. I gave them the URL to the video that showed her pulling the gun, saying that she might kill herself because you just don't know. Now, ever since that has happened, I've had a lot of people say, you did the right thing. But then the people who say, how come you just didn't call 911? Well, first of all, the video was not live. And she didn't say she's going to for sure do it. And if she was to do it, the damage that would be caused in that household would be unimaginable. Imagine your own 16-year-old daughter finding her mother or hearing about her mother did this to herself would be devastating. But I've had people, since I've made that call, accuse me of weaponizing CPS, that I don't belong in other people's business, at all kinds, everything under the sun you can imagine why I shouldn't have made the call. So I would like to get your take on that situation as I explained it.
Well, I just think you were being a concerned citizen. It sounds like your call was made in good faith, not bad faith. You weren't instigating a witch hunt. I mean, the person had an open weapon with a child in the same room. Maybe that's the norm today with all the school shootings going on across America.
Yes.
That doesn't make it right. So, look, I've seen this child protective system allow children to die in foster care in Florida, in my state. And on the other side of the same street, I've seen witch hunts and fishing expeditions and people wrongly accused. So they get it wrong on both ends of the street. But yet you do have some good social workers out there. They're not all bad apples. And those that are, rushing to judgment or not acting in a child's best interest are usually the ones that are undereducated, undertrained, and all they're interested in is protecting their job.
In their wallets.
Well, that's their job.
Anything else, Jump Pal?
Oregon, it's a misdemeanor. It's not a felony to make a false report of abuse or a false police report. In my state of Florida, it's a felony. You can go to prison. So it's like everything else in life. They're not all created equal. Not every state is created equal on the laws here.
Mm-hmm. Jump Pal, you got anything else?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you went kind of real.
Can't hear you, Jump Pal.
Yeah, you low. You real low.
I made the call from Oregon that took place in Georgia. But the way the call was not.
We can't hear you, brother. You low. You real low. Can't hear you.
I don't know what's going on.
I think I hear you now. I think I hear you now.
Yeah, it's coming up now.
Okay. So the child was not in the same room. I made the call from Oregon, but this took place in the state of Georgia. And the way I looked at it was I was not trying to get the child taken away from the home. My concern was having them talk to the mother, find out what's going on with her, keep her from doing what she said she might do. That was the whole concern of me making that phone call. And
again, I think you did the right thing. The mother might have been mentally unstable. She might have been on medications you weren't privy to. You don't know all the facts, so you just called it in good faith. You weren't making a vexatious, frivolous, bad faith call.
Okay. I feel better about that. I mean,
Jump out. Yeah, I agree with Dean. I don't think I would have felt bad about that either. Because if people doing videos like that on social media with a gun and they got a little child in the house, then I mean, if nobody else step in, then who will? And then you did see.
I mean, you don't even know if that woman had a license to carry that gun.
Right.
Yeah, you're correct. I don't know. And she did make follow-up videos after they had visited. They visited literally within 4 hours of me calling. And she even mentioned that one of the two people who were there checked the license to make sure her gun was licensed. She claimed it was, but I don't think it was her gun. I think it had to do with the baby's father because from what we gathered, is that she was only staying there. She doesn't really live there. And she wasn't a very stable person financially. So there's a lot of things, obviously, that was going on in her life for her to even do a video like that.
Mm-hmm. And here's one of my things I look at jump out. That's just like if you see that on the street, like you're walking down the street and you see that happening with a mother or a father and a child. Now, a lot of people probably walk by and say, hey, they ain't got nothing to do with me, so I'm going by my business, But what if you came back on the news and saw that baby was killed by the hand of that person that was playing around with the gun? Then what we start saying to ourselves, damn, I had a chance to save that child's life. I didn't.
Okay, Chris.
I should have done something.
Okay, Chris, I get you on there. And this is something that happened to me. I was either 18 or 19 years old. There was a kid in my same apartment building, very active kid, had two parents who were on drugs. Mm-hmm. They were on welfare. And he looked very malnourished. He had those rings under the eyes. I don't know if you've ever seen a lot of kids who are malnourished, but sometimes rings under their eyes.
Right.
And all I asked him, and I didn't know what CPS was back then, but all I asked the kid, and he was probably 11 at the time, do you get enough to eat? Now, it's probably the wrong question, but I didn't know what to think.
Yeah, I understand.
What to do.
I understand.
Okay, check this out. I think it was like a month or two later, he had to be taken to the hospital, and the reason for it is because of malnutrition. Now, get this. The parents, like I said, were on welfare, they were on drugs. They were not paying for enough food. They only paid the rent, and most of the money went to drugs. And that's why there was not enough food in the house, because they found out there was food in the house. And I wish I would have known about CPS back then. But I had to take it, I had to take that experience and say, I should have called the cops because I knew what the police were. But what would I say? I had no idea what I would say to the police. Is this kid not getting enough to eat?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was uneducated at that time.
I get where you come from. But you know what the thing is, good thing on your part, you still tried to engage, in what was going on. So if I'm hearing you right, did you kind of beat up yourself about the situation or something? Did you beat yourself up about it?
Because I felt hopeless.
You low again. You went low again.
It was all again.
Hear me now?
Barely.
But I said to myself, I'm like, who do I speak to? What am I supposed to say in a situation like this? I was uneducated.
Okay, yeah, you still low. I don't know what you did, but you still low.
I'm not doing anything. So I don't know what's going on.
Okay, yeah.
What about?
Okay, now we hear you. Go ahead. Now I hear you.
Okay, so what I was saying is I was uneducated about what to do at that time. Mm-hmm. And like I said, calling the police, it's like, what do you say about somebody not getting enough to eat?
Right.
I just felt like, maybe they would have told me about child support services, but I wasn't in that far ahead.
Gotcha.
But that's all I had to say, and I just wanted to get your opinion, Dean. What I said.
Every state has a Good Samaritan law. So there's nothing wrong with being a Good Samaritan, so long as you don't get involved. Let's say you're a doctor and you're driving, and all of a sudden a pedestrian's walking out in front of you and just falls flat on the ground. You get out of your car, you're a physician. All of a sudden you give CPR, but you cause that person to die. Well, now your Good Samaritan has gone to professional negligence. All you did was make a couple of phone calls or give a little advice. I see it as being a good Samaritan. I don't see anything more than that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Jump out, brother. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Man. Hey, make your way back over, man.
Thank
you. Know
you.
what I'm saying? We miss you. Make your way back over, brother.
I'll do that. I appreciate Chris for these lives you've been having with this gentleman and Judge Bill Brown. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I really appreciate it.
Are you caught to Judge O'Brown?
I didn't get to watch all of it, but I'm gonna go back and watch it.
All right, man. You take care of yourself. Jump out and hey, keep being you, brother. You see something wrong like that, man? Hey, keep doing what you're doing, brother. Hey.
I personally prefer Judge Judy.
I can try to reach out to her if I can, you know. I can try to reach out to her if I can get her on the show, you know. I don't know how easy it would be, but hey, I can reach out to her. I'll reach out to her. But other than that, though, man, hey, thank you so much, brother. And you take care of yourself, fam. Okay. All right, I'm going to take this last call. This is we going to Texas. Texas, what's going on?
Hello.
Yes.
This is Melinda and Burns.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi there. I watch you on and off, and you know that, so.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Oh Lord, I've been through so much of this crap that you're talking about, and all I am is just a widow with, I had 4 kids at the time, and my ex sued for custody of the children after he got remarried. And he took on 4 kids there, but he needed his 2 because he needed the tax, deductions and stuff. Took me to court, paid the court off, paid the judge off, and this I got from the kids afterwards. But all I was doing was working day and night and trying to take care of everybody. And then finally I got a break. And I moved out to the country and got my land and all that good junk. And then my kids the little ones start coming home with bumps and bruises. And my autistic daughter was sexually molested on the school bus. And yeah, we went through all.
Oh my God.
And then the DA dropped the case after 2.5 years of us therapy and testifying and statements and all that crap, because we found out that the young man that hurt my baby was the nephew of one of the big league lawyers in town. So you people can't tell me that money doesn't talk, man, and walk all over everybody. I've been through it.
Oh yeah. Yes, it does.
What you said.
Yes, it does.
And then after I pulled them out of school, the little ones, and started homeschooling, they had the nerve to send CPS out to me to do a white glove inspection of my house. Thank God I had Nathan, which is for challenged children. That's one group. And the other one is Homeschooling Legal Defense Association. And they took up my case, and they came out, DPS came out one more time, and I called them, and I never had any problems after that. So I'm thankful for the homeschooling people.
Yeah, I know who they are. They know who I am. HSLDA.org is the website, and they have taken on this issue before. Their attorneys have. So I think they're based out of Virginia.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very, very good organization.
Yeah. And then we had to move because of all the flooding in Texas in 2015. We lost everything. So had a house that was in the family, and we came to New Mexico. And we've only been here about 2 years, okay? And I got this neighbor down the street that calls for wellness checks. We have had 4 wellness checks in 2 years. And the last time they came out was like on the 23rd of May. And they were determined to get into my house. And I wouldn't let them in. I ended up with 3 cop cars plus a sergeant in front of my house for a wellness check. Can you believe that crap? Just because I don't live the lifestyle that these idiots down the street live. I'm a widow. I've got 2 challenged young ladies. And we're used to living in the country, being quiet, doing our own little old thing. No loud music, no parties. You know, I don't date. I mean, taking care of these kids is a 24/7 job, which I've accepted by the grace of God. You know? And I've got to call in to the elderly thing here in New Mexico about legal stuff, but they haven't gotten back to me on that. I mean, he's an old buddy-duddy, and I understand that, but I'm not calling anybody for help. I'm not, you know, bothering anybody, and he just got to poke his nose in my business. I just don't understand why people can't leave other people alone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't understand that either.
You hear where I'm coming from?
I understand exactly where you come from. I'm pretty much sure he does too.
I mean,
there's a good portion of America that gravitates to drama.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I guess he gets up at 4 a.m. to cut the lawn, goes to bed at 6, and he hasn't seen us in weeks. Excuse me, but we don't keep those darn hours. I'm sorry. You know? We just
Or just used to start something. That's what that word was.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that Judge O'Brien had said in a tweet, he said, because somebody made a tweet about something getting tried as an adult. He said, you know, hey, wake up. This goes on day in and day out. It's just sad that nobody really pays attention to it till it hit social media. And he's correct. You know, we don't pay attention to it till it hits social media.
Or till it hits home.
Yeah, till it hits home, you know, we don't pay attention to it or till it happen to one of us. Then we want to put it out there that this and that goes on. But if it ain't got nothing to do with us, 9 times out of 10, we're not going to bother with it. We're not going to bother with it. And I can understand with a lot of people why they don't want to be bothered with it because, you know, in a lot of situations like this, they say, you know, be careful who you pick your battles with. And believe me, that is a true statement. But you can't beat yourself up if you do that because you feel like you're doing the right thing. You know, they say that some people need to be helped, but if they don't want to be helped, you can't help them. A lot of people got to get themselves out of this situation that they are in. So you are absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I mean, I wasn't even held accountable to my mother, and I took care of her for 3 years, you know, when she was elderly.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta call into him once a week to let him know we're alive. Excuse me, that's none of his blessed business. I mean, my girls know how to dial 911 if there's an emergency, Lord. You know?
Let me give Mr. Dean, if he have anything to respond to you on, let him respond to you, and you say your final words. And, man, excellent show. But go ahead, Mr. Dean, you have anything for her on what she's saying or not?
Well, sorry about the molestation deal on the bus. You know, that's horrible. But as far as putting stuff on social media, perhaps the most guilty is Donald Trump. But be careful because anything you put on Pinterest or Twitter or Facebook, anything you text message or email, all that is legally admissible into evidence, into a court of law.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
So be very careful because I can guarantee you, if you start putting your court documents or start chastising or admonishing CPS or the government on Facebook, and you're involved in litigation, it'll come back to haunt you.
Well, I've been lucky so far. Besides, I'm already on a blacklist anyway. I'm a vet. Okay? And I was put on that list a long time ago. Domestic terrorist, excuse me. Like the rest of the best I know. So,
Lord have mercy.
All right. Yeah, Melinda, I'm sorry I'm sorry too to hear about the autistic, you know, and I was just telling us about the other day, you know, people pick on the less fortunate. A lot of people pick on people because they're not normal or they feel like they're not normal. They treat them like they below us when in actuality they have equal rights just like us. Regardless of how mentally they are, they have equal rights. They have the same rights that we do. Go out in the community, go to places. Hell, you got some even go to places like strip clubs and stuff because they have their right to do the same thing that we do. And I'm sorry, and it's sad to hear that you say that happened to your autistic daughter, that somebody raped them. But they did it because she was defenseless. And you were sick SOB to do that.
I've been so shocked about how evil and mean people can be on the internet, honestly. You know, it used to be that way, you know, but it is now.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, it's too bad. It's too bad you didn't put that molestation incident before Nancy Grace when she was on CNN.
Oh, they wouldn't even listen to me back then. That was back in 98, 99.
Okay.
You know, and I was just getting over chemo and radiation and everything, but I still kept my kids together. So
that child is an adult now.
Yep, he is. He got a birthday coming in July. So we're blessed.
Thank God.
Well, you know, there's a good book. He's actually a friend of mine on Facebook. He's the author of the book, and he actually is a New York Times best-selling author. His name is Dave Pelzer. He wrote a book, A Child Called It, and it was about his own life story growing up in foster care as an abused child. It's a very inspirational and motivational book.
Melinda, if there's nothing else there, thank you so much for calling in. You know, I'm going to go ahead and try to wrap this up if you don't have anything else to say.
Well, thank you all for just listening, and thank you all for the prayers. And I pray for y'all, too.
Not a problem. Thank you so much, dear. Thank you so much.
Please do for you. Yes.
Blessings.
Blessing to you, too.
Blessing to you.
That's the last one right there. Mr. Dean, again, brother, thank you so much for reaching out to me. This was a show that needed to be talked about. This is an excellent show. We had a whole lot of people coming in, you know, to listen to this. You know, sorry for the inconvenience earlier, but we got things straight. We are here. We have done it. You have gave great expertise to people who did not know or people who going through similar situations. And brother, for that, I'm glad we have crossed paths, and we definitely have to do this again. We have to do this again.
Yeah, man. No, it's my pleasure, and thank you for the forum and the venue.
No problem. But if you like, you got any parting words to say to the people who is going through stuff like this? You have any parting words for them?
I'm sorry?
Now, I was saying, do you have any parting words for the audience? You know, people who probably is listening, they're just scared to come out and speak on it. Do you have any parting words for them?
Yeah, well, for people who are going through active court cases, understand that time is of the essence. It may not just be a lack of resources or a lack of competent counsel. You may not have a lot of time on your side. Mm-hmm. The law has limitations. So you need to act accordingly, and, you know, maybe because I was born and raised in Boston where winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. I don't play the let's wait and see what happens game. I'm going to bring it to you.
There you go.
So,
there you go.
You know, and right. Yeah, so you know, you got to light a fire under your attorney. You got to have a strategy and a plan of attack to attack the other side and discredit the allegations against you.
Absolutely.
Check out my website, abuseexcuse.com. I'm also on Facebook and pretty active on Facebook.
Okay.
There's a lot of information on my timeline on Facebook at my page. Folks can copy and paste the same, give it to their attorney. All I ask is affirmation for the same. And my contact information, if folks need to get a hold of me, is published at my website.
Absolutely, absolutely, and yes, he do post a lot of stuff on his Facebook, y'all. You can find him under the name Dean Tong, and his website is at bruce-excuse.com. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, bruce-excuse.com. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dean Tong. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. No problem. Man. How about that, Brother Smooth? Another great show as usual, man. You know, bringing out the truth, bringing stuff like this to the light that needs to be brought to the light. A fella like him, for what it sounds like, he's not scared to bring it to you. You know, if he sees some crap in the game, he's gonna bring it to you. You know, and you know, and thanks to everybody who called in, because it is sad to hear you lay this story. It's sad to hear you lay this story. Very sad.
Yeah, don't forget Brielle too, because it's sad that his own mother was doing all that stuff to him, and he presented the evidence and the facts to the whole thing, and he got railroaded. So that's one of the reasons why we do have to start really speaking up about all these things that happen. And like Dean would say, is like we got to fight those things, like strike when the iron is hot, like my mom used to say, and that you got to prove the case. You got to prove the case. You got to fight. You just got to do what you got to do to make sure that the truth comes out, because we all know, whether it's in the chat or like us talking amongst each other, truth doesn't always come out when it's supposed to, but it always does.
Absolutely. And let me say this. Let me say this. I always say that I don't have any kids, but after hearing all this, man, I think I'm in a good boat, because I can do. And then just imagine if we had girls, man, you know how easy it is when the mother gets upset with you, man. They can pull this bullshit to get all this ruckus started, and then kind of come out at the end that the motherfucker lied. You went through all these jumps and hoops and loops, and turn around to find out at the end that the motherfucker was lied the whole damn time. And just like somebody just said,
yes, sir.
False accusation be punishable. I totally agree. If you find out that she was lying on me, and we going through all this legal shit because this motherfucker that sit up there and lied on me, then you take that motherfucker behind bars. Let her feel the wrath that she put on me.
Exactly.
Don't turn your blind eye.
And it's not over.
Right.
It's not over revenge neither. In this case here, they always say that, do you want equality? But only thing is only when it's convenient. It should not be that way. If you tell the lie something to that effect, you need to pay the price just like anybody else will, and just like men do. And that's real talk.
It is real talk. It is real talk. These motherfuckers at my house on my phone, I'm getting all these phone calls going back and forth to the goddamn lawyer, paying all this fucking money because this stupid motherfucker sit up there and lied because she couldn't get her way. And again, like I say, it's our child when everything is good. But when she get mad, it's her fucking child. Man, get the fuck out my face with that. Regardless of how the fuck you feel about me, that's still my child too. Because if it wasn't my child, then your punk ass would be trying to take me to court for my child. But it's your child when you mad at me. Get the fuck out of here.
No.
Get the fuck out of here. So, yes.
Because I know sometimes.
Exactly. So, we need.
I was going to say, yeah, I know sometimes I hear sometimes my niece, because I'm not going to say who. Sometimes my niece is like, I have to tell her, I say, get that boy to his father too, because guess what? That's his father also. Let him have some. Well, tell you what, you let me have him for a little while because you always holding him.
Yes,
don't do that.
Don't sit up there and hold your son or your daughter hostage because you mad at him, then talking shit about him. Then he come to find out later that all that shit you said was untrue, and you won't even say I'm sorry. You won't even say I'm sorry.
Sure won't.
Well, this, well, that, well, now, well, my ass. You sit up there and fucking lied
Nope.
on me.
Well, my behind. No.
Right, you fucking lied on me. And if I got all this punishment, all this bullshit because you put me through this, trying to put me through the system because of your fuckery, then you should feel the same wrath that you put me through. I don't give a damn who don't like it. You should be going through the same wrath that you put me through. But it don't always work like that. They find out the motherfucker lied, and it seems like a lot of them just turn a blind eye. Oh, well, she just lied. Oh, well, Chris is innocent. Okay, that's it?
Nah.
That's it?
Nah. See, the problem with that is that knowing that the court system and a lot of things in life are only geared one way. And that's not right, because guess what? What makes you think that just because it goes one way means it's the right way? We're finding out more and more and more each day that in this case here, that is not always true. And knowing that we spoke about these things and we're like putting up all these new news stories going on here, something does and needs to be done right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And speaking of this, I want to do that story, dude. I mean, you was talking about the guy got the girl pregnant and she's cutting him out the picture. I want to do that story.
Shoot, we can do that now. Shoot. You got the time. Everybody want to stay here, let's stick around. We can do this. Unless you got to set up the story, I would suppose.
Yeah, I would rather set it up separate because this is about false allegations. I would rather do that as a separate show. She said, I got to go cook for my hubby. I will be back. I thank you for talking to me. No problem, Melissa. You know, you're going to find out over here, you know, pretty much all is welcome, you know. We don't shame nobody, you know. I mean, everybody go through shit, you know. But now the only difference is if you put yourself in this situation, that's different, you know, because we do put ourselves in situation trying to play these games. But, you know, but y'all don't understand that when y'all try to do that, that shit backfires on you. It backfires on you.
Games have a way of backfiring, and a lot of times you will get caught up in them if you're playing a little too much.
Absolutely. Anyway, thank you to Brother Dean Tong. You know, this was an excellent show. What up, Oslam? What's going on, brother? Peace. That was a good show. He shed a lot of light on stuff that he does. And people, I have upcoming shows speaking with actual CPS workers. I got a show coming up speaking with a social worker. You know, I got a whole lot of stuff lined up. You know, I had somebody tell me, hey, bro, maybe you need to do more interviews. I think they'd help. And I think he did, because this was amazing. This was amazing, man. And we need to do more. We need to do more topics like this. So I got a couple of shows coming up talking with a CPS social worker. I got a show coming up talking to a mental health person, working with a mental health field, you know, which they would be right on my alley because I pretty much do the same thing. So that would be nice to shed some light on that. Thank you to everybody who has called in. You know, y'all stories are amazing, but it's sad at the same time, you know, because I hate to hear anybody to go through what y'all was going through. So other than that, as a matter of fact, I'm going to shut this down, and I'm going to come right back with another show. That's going to be a short show because I really want to show y'all this story that came across my eyes or whatnot. So I'm going to end this show, and I'm going to come right back. We're going to set up another show. Me and my brothers. Brother Smooth, you going to be able to do the show with me?
Yeah, I'll be here. So all I'm doing is I can take care of my stuff for tomorrow. So I've got plenty of time.
All right, so I'm going to end this show right here, y'all, and I'm going to come right back with another show, and that'll probably be it for me for today because I really want to do this show. So other than that, y'all, thank y'all so much. Again, shout out to Dean Tong for coming on the show, and y'all take care of yourself and each other, and I will be right back. Peace.
Peace.